Hi, welcome. We're so glad that you've joined us today to hear our presentation. I'm Julie Wickstrom, the Executive Director from Boston University Financial Assistance, and I'm joined with my colleague, Rebecca Castley, the Senior Associate Director. Sorry, Rebecca, I interrupted you. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Good evening.
I'm going to be presenting to you, and then Rebecca will be helping me with the question and answer portion at the end. So definitely send in your chat questions through the chat. And we will try to answer as many as we can. But there will be lots of opportunities for you to ask questions and meet with our staff that I'll talk to you about towards the end of the presentation. So let's get started. So many of you are probably wondering, how do families do this? How do we make this work? Some people have financial aid and some people don't, but everyone probably owes some kind of a balance. So how do you make it work? How do families do it? So I'm going to talk to you about how families have done this in the past. There are 4 steps to managing your cost of attendance or cost of education. This brochure is actually going to be mailed to you. It's probably in process right now. So once you get it, it will look really familiar to you. So let's get started. So the first step is actually looking at what the cost is. So you want to look at tuition and fees and room and board. Those are things that the university will directly bill you for. But you also have other expenses like books and supplies and incidentals. So books and supplies, that will really vary depending on the courses that the student takes. Some semesters, the coursework is more expensive than the others. Also, you can rent books. There's different ways to get them through Amazon, as well as our own bookstore. Incidentals, those are really going to include all sorts of things. So transportation from home to campus. Also things like shampoo, doing laundry, all those expenses that you don't really think about when you're at home that you're still going to have when you go off to college. So we take all of these costs and we put it together and we call it our cost of attendance. And this is what we allow students to have financial aid to up to that amount, or borrow loans. So it's a really important number to consider. So let's go on to the next step. So the next step, I want to talk to you about not just planning for the first year, but planning for all 4 years. So in that plan, you might actually wonder, well, how do I plan for 4 years if I don't know what the cost will be, right? So like most colleges, tuition does go up every year. And while I can't forecast the future, I can tell you the average increase over the last 3 years of tuition, fees, and room and board has been about 3.5%. So that's what you want to be thinking in your mind, that tuition will be going up. The good news is for students with need-based financial assistance from Boston University, that Boston University need-based award will go up at the same percentage rate as any tuition increase. So that's really important for you to know. So that will definitely help with costs as they go up. But we do want to make sure, we're trying to keep costs down as well. We know that it's expensive. We want to make sure that students can continue to afford to be able to come to BU. But we also want to make sure we're maintaining the quality, and not just actually maintaining it, but improving it. We know students chose BU or chose to apply to BU, and hopefully you choose to come to BU because of the great faculty, research opportunities, programs, the fact that we're always evolving and growing. I know I've been really excited this week hearing all the great research the Needle has been doing. So that's our Center for Infectious Diseases. They may actually come up with a cure for COVID-19. That's pretty neat that that's happening right on our campus. So all sorts of things are happening. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to invest in that so that we're not just saying we're good enough. We never feel like we're good enough. We always want to be better. So let's go on to the next. So again, thinking about your cost for this year and then thinking that it will be similar from year to year, you want to look at the total cost. That's what I went over earlier, minus any financial aid that you have for the year. You don't want to include work study here because those are funds that the student earns throughout the academic year. So those are things the student can use for things like incidentals, like I said earlier. But the actual things you're billed for, those are things like your grants and scholarships, loans, those are what you would apply to that. And that's where you come up with your cost for the year. So let's keep going. So the next step is thinking about, okay, now that I know what my cost is, what are the options for paying that? So you might be able to write out a check for the remaining amount. Most families can't. So you might want to look at the monthly payment plan. So this is a payment plan BU contracts through Nelnet in order to let families actually budget payments over time. So there is a small fee, but it's not a loan. So there's no interest that's associated with this. So it's a really great, inexpensive way to budget. It does start in May. So soon after you pay your enrollment deposit, if you haven't already, this payment plan will start. So it is a 10-month plan, so 2 5-month plans, one for the first semester and another for the second semester. For the fall semester, our bills are due in the beginning of August, so Student Accounting Services bills you for each semester separately, but we do encourage you to plan for the whole year. And your second semester, or the spring semester bill, is due in December. And then for students beginning in spring, the summer bill is due in June. So those are things to think about. So the payment plan, like I said, is a good, inexpensive way to pay the payments over time. So you could look at your balance. Maybe you owe $10,000 and you're trying to figure out, can I pay that over this payment plan? So that would be $1,000 a month. But you might still be thinking, that's still a stretch. I need some more help. I can't just use the payment plan. So you want to kind of go to the next step then. So do you need to borrow? Is borrowing right for you? So you might look at doing a combination of the payment plan and borrowing. So borrowing in general, your payments aren't due until the student has actually graduated or left school. If students go on to graduate school, many loan programs actually let students defer those loans. But with some of the parent loans, the loan payments might start right away. So if you're choosing that one and a payment plan, you want to think about that you're making 2 payments at once. There are actually really helpful calculators on our website that allow you to figure out, if I have this much money to pay per month, how much of that would be in a payment plan and how much of it would be in a loan. So that's where you want to start. That way you can minimize the cost of that payment. So let's go to the next slide. So if you are borrowing a loan, an educational loan, so it's not just a commercial loan or a private loan, it's a credit-based educational loan. You might want to be thinking about what loan is best for you. A lot of families ask me, there's so many products out there, just tell me which one is the best. I wish I could. There isn't one that fits everyone. There's a lot of different variety out there, and it's actually really good because families are different. Some families might be thinking, I just want to use it, again, as sort of like a budgeting tool. So I might want to just have a loan that I pay off within 5 years. So in that instance, you might not care as much about what the interest rate is, but you care if there are fees up front, because that would increase the cost of the loan. But if you're paying it over time, you know that you need that time, 10 years or 15 years, to repay that loan, then you might be really thinking about, I want the lowest interest rate possible. Some families feel like a fixed interest rate is better for them because it's more predictable what those payments will be. But other families like that variable rate because it might be a lower rate in the long run. So those are really important things to consider. There's also a lot of great borrower benefits to think about. Again, I mentioned loans have benefits that allow students to defer the loan payments while they're in school, but not all loans do. So you want to make sure that you're looking for that if that's important for you. Also, you want to think about, is the loan in the parent's name or in the student's name? So if the loan is in the student's name, they almost always need a co-borrower, and that usually is the parent. So I usually encourage families to think of it as a family loan, and think about which loan product is best for you as a family. There might be a loan product that's in the student's name, but ultimately the parent is helping to pay that product off. So in that case, it's really good actually to look at all the different terms and to decide at that point. There's no prepayment penalty on most loans. So you want to make sure you're looking at that as well. So if you do want to pay it off early, that you have that flexibility. Let's go on to the next slide. One thing that Boston University does that's somewhat unique to BU is we have a process where we request information annually from lenders, and we're asking those lenders to tell us about their loan products. We want to know about their customer service. We want to know about their rates. We want to know about the benefits they're providing to our students. And then we have a university-wide committee that reviews those loans. and we determine ultimately which ones we feature on our website. And we use a tool called Elm. So if you go to our website, actually you can go right now, we've already done this process for this year. You can see what loans are selected there, and those are some really good options for you. But it's not an exhaustive list. There are many loan products out there. I'm sure you've all seen them. Even AAA has a loan now. So definitely evaluate them carefully and make sure you're selecting one that's right for your family. The great news is this is a really good starting point for you. So we've given you tools that will help you figure out which loan might be best for you and also how to do that research. One thing I'll say is it's not an exhaustive list, like I mentioned, and there might be some really good loans that aren't on here. So one of the criteria that we use for this is that the loans are available to most students. That usually leaves out credit unions, but credit unions can have some pretty good low interest loans for students. So definitely look into that. We don't include it on our list just because you have to be a member, so it's not available to all students unless they become a member. But definitely bring a copy of our website or bring your phone with this information. It will show you side-by-side comparisons of these loans to the bank if you're interested in a different loan product, and just ask them how it compares against those. But it's really a great tool for you to at least get started. Some other resources to consider. Some families use home equity loans. We don't encourage or discourage. It's really a personal decision. There used to be a benefit where families could actually take it as a tax deduction, but you can no longer do that unless it's used for repairs on your home. So if you, as a parent, had done that for an older sibling in college, that's not a benefit that's available anymore. So you want to think carefully about whether or not that's the right decision for you. Student employment is also a great resource for students. If your student didn't receive work study, they can still work on campus. And it's actually a great way to not only get job experience, but to learn about BU. That will give the student a contact at BU. So you have someone that, if you're wondering, hey, does BU do this? Or how do I find out this information? That student employment or work study supervisor can actually help you answer some of those questions. So it's a great resource for you. Typically, students work maybe 10 hours a week, and their schedule is flexible. It's flexible around the students' coursework because we know students are here to be students first. So it's a really great option. Smart Money 101 is our financial wellness program. So we offer great workshops throughout the year about budgeting and planning and what your credit score is and why it's important, as well as having a robust website. So we definitely encourage you to check that out. Even parents, if you want to help the student with some of their budgeting. So I do want to include this slide here. Can I appeal for reconsideration? Particularly with everything going on with COVID-19, we know that this might be on families' mind. You know, what do I do if something happens? Right now, we're letting families know if there has been a change to definitely write to us and tell us about that change. We're not sure what we can consider and what we can't. Just like you, we're not certain about what's happening, but we want to hear from you, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for you. And we also want to let you know that we have processes throughout the year. So if you decide to enroll your student at BU, and then in the fall you're thinking, you know, something happened, I lost my job, I'm not sure how we're going to make this work. We want to hear from you then as well. So it's not just a one-time process. The other great thing that's unique about BU is we guarantee the scholarship amount that you have now. So whether it's need-based or merit, we guarantee that amount every year to you. It won't go down. And in fact, it could go up. Like I said, need-based aid goes up with the tuition increase. And also if you do request reconsideration, it could go up, but it will never go down. We're not going to ask you to reapply every year. So that's really important for you to know. And a good thing I hope helps you give some peace of mind. The process is really easy. We have an appeal form on our website. So we recommend that you go to the website to download that form, and then you can upload it right on the BU portal. So that's the quickest way to get it to us. As you can imagine, we're all working remotely right now. We do have people checking the mail about a couple times a week. So if you mail it, it will take a little bit longer to get to us. So we definitely recommend the MyUBU portal. Even if you have to take a picture of it with your phone, that's fine. Just make sure that you get that to us as quick as possible so that we can make sure that we get you an answer quickly, because we know that you have to make a pretty big decision before May 1st. We have some great planning tools on our website as well. I mentioned that you're planning for 4 years. So this is a great way to use our calculators to do that, to think about ways you might minimize the expenses in the future. Some students in their junior and senior year opt to apply to be a resident assistant in the dorm. That's a great benefit at BU because you get your room and board covered. So that doesn't happen in every school, but it's a great benefit to think about going forward. So definitely we encourage you to use those tools as well. I borrowed this slide from the Center of Career Development because I know this is also on people's mind. Are my students going to get jobs if they go to BU? What does a BU degree mean? And what I can tell you is annually we survey students who have graduated, usually about 6 months later, to find out where they are. Are they employed? Or are they still looking? And what we found with our recent survey in the 2018 class is that 96% of our students were either employed in graduate or professional school, or they were in programs like AmeriCorps. So that's really great for our students. I can also tell you that our students are repaying their loans. Our default rate on loans is very, very low. So that's great news for our students. And some of the reasons for that have to do with not only all of the great programs at BU, but the resources that our Center for Career Development offers. So you can see on the slide all the different resources that are offered. These are offered to students from their first year on. So we don't want students to wait until their senior year. We want them to start working with the Center of Career Development right away. So that's something to think about as well. We also have this great program called Handshake. This is a database full of jobs. It's much more than just a database, but that's how I think of it. In that you can see there's over 20,000 different jobs in different countries and different organizations. That's BU's connections. BU employers want to hire BU students because they recognize their critical thinking skills, among other things. It's great. We have job fairs on campus. I remember hearing last year the FBI came to our job fair to interview students. That was really cool. I thought that they came to BU just for that because of the reputation of BU students. So that's something that you really want to be thinking about as well in how you're picking a school. So I'm going to end with this and then we'll go to your questions. There will be lots of opportunities to engage with us. We encourage you, if you have very specific questions about your circumstances, to make a 30-minute appointment with us. We're doing appointments by Zoom. We're learning too. We can help you. I imagine a lot of you may have started to use Zoom just like us, but we can definitely help you with that. If you don't have a camera, it's okay. We can still work with you in making that appointment. But we encourage you to do that. It's an individual appointment with one staff member that they can actually look at your file even while at home, and help you with an individualized counseling session. So definitely do that. You can go to our website to book an appointment there. And you can also register for Rebecca's webinar that's coming up next week, Understanding Your Financial Aid. So that will be a great kind of overview of your financial aid award and what your next steps are. So I'm going to end there and turn it over to Rebecca to let me know what some questions are that we can answer.
We've gotten a lot of questions and I've been typing furiously trying to answer as many as they can, but we do have some good themes that I think, Juliet, will be helpful. So a lot of questions about appealing, but I think since that was toward the end, those should be answered. Then we seem to have a lot of participants who are part of the College of General Studies program that begins in the spring and then summer. Can you just talk quickly how is the financial aid for one term? What can they expect in the summer? And as well as the costs? Yeah.
That's a great question. So the financial aid that you received, you would have seen just the spring semester, but actually the summer is very similar. The summer costs in London are about the same actually as they are in Boston. The way that they have figured out how to expense that, because it is BU property, has allowed them to keep the cost the same. The financial aid will be the same as well. So we guarantee that the Boston University financial aid will be the same. We want you to be able to plan for your costs, so that will be about the same. So that's great, great, great question.
Yeah. And then some questions generally about the federal work study, and just a little bit, how does that work and when do they start? I think it's nice. People are wondering when they can start seeing the jobs that are available.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So federal work study is a great program. So it's a grant that, so we offer employment. It can be on campus or off. We have some employment off campus with some nonprofit organizations. One of the things we do is offer tutoring in the Boston public schools, but most of the employment is on campus. So you would work just like it's a regular job, and you earn money every week. So you would work maybe 10 hours, and then at the end of that week, you would get a money deposited into your account, into your own bank account, for that amount of money to use for your expenses. So it's really great. Student employment works the same way. It's not something that, like I said, doesn't get deducted from your bill. To actually have access to those jobs, once you enroll and become a BU student and get your special access set up, I think that happens later on. So I know a lot of people have already paid their enrollment deposit. Usually that happens in the summer, and it usually coincides with orientation, where you can actually go through the student link. So it's a different link than what you're used to. It's the link that our students use once they're matriculated or actual enrolled students here. And there's a job database there, so students can access it that way, and also learn all about that when they're here for orientation.
Right. And I saw a quick question that said, is it for the year or just for a semester? And our system awards it all under one semester.
I've been seeing all the questions over here. The number keeps going up, Rebecca.
Right. But I want,
we missed.
it's an amount that you can use for if you're joining us in fall, for the fall and spring. We didn't want to say you have to use half and half. So you can decide to use you can split it as you'd like, but it is for the fall, spring, and if you're starting in the spring on campus, it's for the spring, and there typically aren't study abroad. I mean, there aren't federal work study opportunities on the study abroad portion. But so then we got some great questions about they're thinking already about the future. So reapplying for the sophomore, junior, senior year. So from students that haven't received, if their circumstances change and they didn't get an award, a need-based scholarship this year, is it possible to reapply in future years?
Yeah, so students who didn't receive financial aid this year for one reason or another can definitely reapply, particularly as if your circumstances change. We want to hear from you. The great thing about BU is once you're enrolled at BU, we will do what we can to keep you at BU, because you're our student. We don't want to lose you. So there's definitely opportunities to reapply for need-based aid once you're here.
Great. Let's see. And then there was some questions for students that are receiving need-based about what it means that the award says it's tentative. What does that mean, and how should they do anything right now?
That's a great question. So tentative just means that we're letting you know that this was our evaluation based on what you put on the profile in the FAFSA application. But we do, or we will ask for your parent tax returns and your tax returns if you filed, probably shortly after May 1st, so that we can essentially confirm the information that was provided on the profile in FAFSA. And we then finalize the award. So for most families, we don't see any changes because you probably use the IRS data retrieval when you fill out your FAFSA application, or you had your tax returns in front of you, so the information probably won't change. So that's the really good news. If for some reason there was a change, then we'll evaluate that and make a decision whether or not we would have to make a change to an award. The other thing that happens is for students who were admitted through the early decision program, we didn't know then what the cost of attendance would be because the tuition increase hadn't been announced. So all of those students will receive at the same time that that's being reevaluated, could actually get an increase because the cost went up as well. So that's really a good thing to know as well.
Right. And Julie, can you just talk about the payment plan again and when ideally it begins and
Sure.
how that works?
So the payment plan would begin in May. Usually the payments are due around May 15th. So if it's a payment plan that you sign up for a 5-month plan, for example, in the fall, and there's a 5-month plan in the spring, you would sign up for pretty soon after you pay your enrollment deposit. But if you want to wait a little bit longer, so maybe you want to wait until you actually get your bill, which is usually right around July 1st, you can do that and sign up for the payment plan. You would just have to pay a couple months payments to catch up. So for example, if you sign up for it in July, you would have to pay May, June, and July at once.
Right. There's lots of questions about working still on campus. So can you, maybe many of the families aren't from Massachusetts, so can you say what the average salary or what students can expect? What can they expect to earn when they're on campus?
Yeah. So actually, Massachusetts has a pretty high minimum wage. I think it's about $12 or $13 an hour right now. The reason I actually don't remember the exact amount is because we've been on this course of it going up incrementally every year.
Right.
And I think now we're somewhere between $12 and $13, and then it's scheduled to go up again next year. So it's a really good amount. So you might be thinking if you have a work study award, it might not go that far, which is okay. We're not expecting you to work a lot of hours. We're only expecting you to work, like I said, maybe 10 hours a week. There are, if you exhaust your total work study award, you could work for a department that actually can pay you straight out of their department funds. So you would be able to continue to work, but you just want to talk with that department about that ahead of time.
Great. And then just a few more questions, if you could just go over one more time about renewal. So what do students have to do to get their award renewed, and what will we renew?
Yeah, great question. So for your Boston University need-based or merit aid, you don't have to do anything to be renewed. You just have to meet the minimum grade point average that's set for your award. So for most awards, it's a 2.0. For the trustee scholarship, it's a little bit higher. But those are the amounts that you would be looking at to make sure that you're meeting that standard. There is a scholarship that requires that you complete community service. That's the BU Community Service Award. So that's one requirement there. But in general, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to reapply. You'll just automatically get your Boston University money. But if you want to continue to get your federal aid, particularly if you have a Pell Grant, something called an SEOG grant, any mass or other state money, you definitely need to fill out the FAFSA application every year. We recommend that you do that around March, only so that we have it, so that we can make sure that we're including that when we're renewing your financial aid for the next year.
And we know that the students that were admitted to BU are the best and the brightest, so they sometimes receive the outside scholarships from their parents' work or from their community. Can you talk about how those might be fit into their financial aid award?
Sure. So students are receiving awards not from BU. We do want to know about that. We have to account for it. It's a federal regulation, particularly because we have federal financial aid that we include. So we need to know about that. That is something we need to include. And because we've met your full demonstrated need, we may have to make an adjustment to your financial aid. The good news is the last thing we want to do is decrease any of your Boston University aid. So what we would look at is your work study award. We might reduce that a little bit, but again, you can still work on campus through our student employment program, so it's really okay. Or we might look at any loans that you have. So you might have a subsidized Stafford loan. So that loan might become unsubsidized instead. Really what that means, subsidized means that the interest doesn't accrue while you're in school because the government is subsidizing it. And unsubsidized means that it accrues while you're in school, but in both cases, you don't have to make payments while you're in school.
Okay, a couple of more questions about appealing. So as we start to receive many appeals, do we have a timeline for when students can expect to hear and when and how they'll find out the decision?
Yeah. Rebecca, why don't you take that question? So Rebecca actually is our great team leader for the staff that counsel students and actually review those appeals. So I'll let her answer that question.
So it's always the best idea, and that you're viewing this event now is on the right direction, because you want to get your appeal in as early as you can, because that means it will be one of the first that we are able to review. The staff are busy reviewing appeals carefully, and they're also reviewing them quickly and equitably. So we're assessing funding levels with the circumstances. So we will let you know. We know May 1st is the enrollment deposit deadline, so that's always on our mind, but we're going to let you know as quickly as we can. The student will get an email telling them to go back to check the portal, or if we're not able to approve, you'll also get an email from your assistant director. So we're reviewing them as quickly and carefully as we can, and that the best thing is to get your appeal in soon, as soon as you can. And then the other question about appealing, and I wrote it down. Or maybe that was it. There's a lot of questions. Appealing is about matching awards from. There was a few questions if we match awards from other schools.
We don't match awards, but we definitely are interested in seeing that. And part of the reason
what I said.
for it, yeah, good. Part of the reason for that is it's possible when we were reviewing the application and the other school was, maybe we somehow had different information. We want to make sure that we calculated your financial need in a similar way, or at least we can understand why it was different. So that would be the only reason that we would want to look at, but the only way that we can increase your financial aid awards if your calculated need were to change. So if there's something different in your circumstances, we know that the information on your application is pretty old, right? It asked for income information from a couple of years ago, so it might be kind of off. We definitely, think that an update to that, if there is a big change, is a change in circumstances. So it seems funny because that was the correct information for the form, but it's really different than what you put on the form. Because your circumstances have changed. So we do want to hear about that. And we can consider that and recalculating your demonstrated need.
And then there are questions about merit scholarships, and is it too late to apply or hear about merit scholarships at BU?
So merit scholarships are all decided at the time that you're admitted. So some of those have a separate application or an essay process. Others are just handpicked by the Board of Admissions, but they've made all of those selections at this time. They offer a number of scholarships, knowing that some students won't enroll, but they carefully make that selection. And unfortunately, there aren't other merit funds available.
And Julie, I understand for some people it's confusing how financial aid works in that we showed the total costs. And how does aid get applied? Do students have to say what they want their financial assistance applied to, or can you just simply say how the aid credits and how it works?
Sure. So like I mentioned before, the university will bill you for tuition fees and room and board. So if your financial aid is less than that, then the financial aid will go towards that, and there might be a balance that you owe. So say you might owe $2,000 after the difference for that. But you may also have more financial aid than that. So there's financial aid that exceeds room and board, tuition and fees. That is aid you could use for books. That actually will show as a credit on your account, meaning it's money that's yours and you can request a refund. So as of the first day of school, you can actually request a refund and use that money for those incidental expenses that I mentioned or your books.
Great. Let's see. A lot of talk about how to submit appeals. So if we could just say again where you would find the appeal form and how to submit it, the best way to submit it securely.
Sure. Is that appeal form right on the portal, Rebecca, or do you have to go to our website?
You do have to go to the website to find if you just type in appeal in the search bar, it's the first thing that comes right up.
Okay. So that's great. There's a whole page that gives you some information about appealing and what we consider and what to expect. And then there's that form that we referenced. It's a really great form. It helps you sort of understand like, oh, okay, that's something that they might consider. And this is what information they ask for. We definitely recommend to use the form. If you've already submitted an appeal and didn't use the form, that's okay too. We'll accept that as well. But again, then log into that, have your student log into the BU portal and upload that form. Right now, with so many of us working from home, you might not have an opportunity to print it out, but you could just take a picture of it and upload that picture through the portal as well.
Sure. And Julie, we've been in financial aid for a few years, but I know we speak in terms of grant and then we say scholarship. Can you explain the difference, what those mean?
Sure. So at Boston University, there's really no difference. Grants and scholarship are both what we consider gift aid. So it's aid that you don't have to repay. So it's the best kind of aid that you can get. So sometimes we'll call it need-based scholarship. Sometimes we'll call it merit-based scholarship. But in both cases, it's merit aid that you don't have to repay. And again, both of those scholarship or need-based or merit-based are renewed each year. The word grant is often used as well, but it's interchangeable. So I wouldn't get too hung up on the differences between those things at BU.
And Julie, I've seen a few questions that I think it would be helpful to highlight our great calculators that we have on the website and how you can use them to help, because the portal and the financial aid award includes the cost, your financial aid, and then the cost, but it doesn't do any math for you. So how can families figure out what they owe, what they might owe? Or
so let me see. I'm going to see if I can pull up the calculator on the website here.
You are brave.
I know.
That's great.
And I don't know. Can you see it, Rebecca?
I can't. I still see.
So I'll share that in a moment.
Okay.
Or maybe I'll be really brave and share what I'm doing now. And
I just see you and I.
Okay. Let's see. I can share my browser. Look at that.
Oh, it worked.
I know.
I mean, it worked.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, we are very professional here. We haven't been using Zoom as long as some people, so we're still learning as well.
Sure.
So Rebecca, for the families, do you want to tell me sort of how you navigate to those calendars? So I'm in forms and calculators.
Okay, I'm going to move. I have the question bar. So you want to go to planning calculators.
Calculators.
Yeah. And then scroll down a little bit. And then you see there's 3. So we don't want it to just be a first year thing. So that's the good news. But most families listening tonight are first year students. So you want to click on the first year students. And one of the only differences for first year is a small orientation fee. So we just wanted to make sure that we called that out. But yeah, and there it is.
So there are different costs for housing, but most of our first year students end up in a standard housing plan. So we'll select that. So you would just select that. In Massachusetts, it's required to have health insurance. So if you don't have a plan that meets the Massachusetts standards, you will need to purchase that here. But if you do have a plan, you can waive that cost so you don't have to pay it. So then you can see when we do that, it tells you what your billed expenses will be. Again, it doesn't include books and things like that because that will depend later. And then you can just put in what your financial aid award is. So maybe I got $15,000 here, and then I expect that I'm going to get $1,000 from a Rotary Club maybe. And then there's a little bit of family savings here. So this will show my balance then is $60,000, $60,493. And then here you can put in the other expenses we mentioned, like books and supplies, to actually figure it out. And then put in any loans that the student is planning to borrow. Here's the direct loan the student was awarded. And that will help you figure out how to actually manage the expenses above. So we created this interactive calculator just to help people. We have the 4 steps brochure has this information, but of course it's not interactive, so it doesn't allow you to do this. You have to, pull out a calculator and do the math yourself. So this is much easier for you here. We have some really good planning tools here. Really a great resource to consider, along with our Smart Money 101, which is our financial wellness program. We definitely, like I said, it's a robust site. We definitely recommend that this is something you take advantage of as well.
Julie, someone just asked how you got, they like the calculator. They just wanted, can you show one really quick time how you got there?
I can. So right on the top bar, you see forms and calculators, and then planning calculator. And then you scroll down and select the planning calculator for first year students.
All right, that was good. Julie, can you just talk about the federal student loans that first year students are eligible for? So what some students might see the base year amount, and then what the additional amount, and if students weren't awarded any student loans, what can they do to take advantage of the loans?
Sure. So all students who are eligible for federal financial aid, so you have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. There's a few other exceptions. All of those students are eligible for something called a direct loan. It's a federal direct loan. And for first year students, the amount is capped by the federal government. So there's a base year amount of $3,500 a year, and then there's an additional amount for $2,000. The $2,000 amount has to be unsubsidized. So like I said, that means the interest accrues while the student's in school, but the student is not required to make payments until after they graduate. They usually get about 6 months after they graduate. If the student goes on to graduate school, they can defer that loan as well. The base portion could be subsidized or unsubsidized, and it really depends on the student's demonstrated need. But again, in both cases, the student doesn't have to start repaying it. If the student didn't receive any loans, so you might actually have gotten a Cohen scholarship, so that means you're in our highest need population where we've met your need without loans, but you might still want to borrow a loan if you feel like there are some expenses that could help with. So you can definitely do that. You've already filled out the FAFSA application, the free application for federal student aid. So you can just request that loan. You can send us an email to do that, or send it through the portal. If you haven't applied yet and you're interested in that, you can fill out the free application for federal student aid right now and be considered for that. But again, the loan is capped at $3,500 plus $2,000 for our freshman students or first year students.
Right. Yeah. Just there's really great specific questions that I think would be advantageous for the family to make an appointment to join a virtual open house meeting with staff from the financial assistance office to answer. And then some people are having trouble finding where to submit the appeal form on the portal. So I've asked them to email me because I have a printout to show exactly how to find it. So it's a drop down box on the financial aid checklist. So that's where it's located, but I can show exactly where if they have troubles. And then one question was, is it cheaper to move off campus for junior and senior year? And so
I would say there's definitely pros and cons to that, and we definitely recommend that you talk with us before you do that. We can talk to you about the cost of that. You know, some of the pros of living on campus is, you know, that BU is maintaining your facility. During snowstorms, for example, they do all the shoveling for you. All sorts of great benefits to being on campus. You're close to campus, you're close to your classes, free Wi-Fi as part of your room and board. So living off campus, it might be cheaper if you have a lot of roommates, but you might have some issues with the landlord maintaining your property. So again, it's really pros and cons. The Boston housing market can be pretty expensive. So to get anything that's, I would think, a lot less than living on campus, you might face some of those challenges.
Julie, some people are asking if this will be recorded and where can they find it?
Yeah, so it will be recorded, and I believe if you go back into the site where you registered for the event, you can find it there.
Right. Can you just tell one more time how to set up that virtual? Where can they find how to set up the virtual open house meeting? Did I mention it again?
Yep. So if you go to our website, since I'm here already, I'm not sure if the button is live yet, Rebecca.
It is live. Just remember.
I mean the admitted students.
Oh, I'm not sure that is, but if you go to right, just the.
So if we search for admitted students here.
Oh, this is gonna. It might come up then. I think.
Yeah, definitely comes up now.
Yeah. Still has the picture we don't love though, but
I love the search bar. The quickest way to find anything. There's actually really great information here that talks again about how to acknowledge
that's a great
the portal, how to attend the virtual open house. So here is where you would go, and you would click right here to book your appointment. So when you first go in, it might look a little confusing because all of these are sort of grayed out. And it's because it's the first appointment time. So you just keep scrolling down, and you can see appointments start. So you can see there are a lot of different times. We have nighttime appointments, Fridays, Saturdays, Mondays. So we're trying to accommodate you as well as we can. So definitely go on and select the time.
Yeah, and there's been great. There's been a lot, Julie. There's a lot of, or 300, close to 400, or 346. Sorry, I thought there was.
Yeah.
But a lot have to do with great questions for the schools and colleges here at BU that I think are all hosting events. Maybe more with student involvement and financially we're not as exciting as what they have to offer, but I suggest there was questions about the costs of when they go to London and what they can expect, but I think those are really great questions to pose to students that have done it. So Julie and I might tell you what we think and what we've heard, but I think you should, the specific questions about the school, and there were some questions about dual degrees and how long that might take. Financially, it is for 8 semesters. And so I would talk to your school or college, whether it's College of Arts and Sciences or engineering, or about the dual degree programs. And so I would refer to the colleges.
Yeah, I think it's great that we were one of the first webinars available. So I'm sure you have lots of questions, but that there are so many programs coming up that you can sign up for where you'll have an opportunity to get all those questions answered.
Yeah, so there are lots of questions about appealing and what they should do. So I think either booking the open house appointment, or if you email FinAid, FINAID, FinAid at bu.edu, your question can get routed to the correct source. And we're also happy to set up phone calls with families. So let us know the best way to help you. And right now it's hard for Julie and I to look up, but I'd love to delve into your case right now, but that would take, so definitely, reach out if you have specific questions about your own financial aid award. This was the first, we wanted to set the stage, and now we're ready to talk about your financial aid individually.
Yeah, exactly. Those virtual appointments are really great because your counselor will have your account and your applications right in front of them, so they can answer all your specific questions.
Yeah, there's just, I think most the questions that are coming now are about specific, so we've clarified through the questions that the way to submit the appeal is the financial aid checklist. So it's a drop-down box that has appeal as a document. So it's through the financial aid checklist. That's where you submit the appeal. I think most of the questions are about specific questions, and then how to got thing about appeals. So I think they'd be great for virtual meetings.
Yeah, and we encourage you to attend Rebecca's session. Is it next week, Rebecca?
A week from tonight. Yeah. Okay. And right. Yeah. Great. A week from tonight.
Great. So you can learn even more at that point, and then after her session is when the first available appointments are. So you'll be able to hear from Rebecca again. And then by that point, even be more ready for your financial aid appointment. So you can make an appointment now, and if you decide you don't need it, you can always cancel it. But we encourage you to definitely do that. We're here for you. We want to make sure that, especially during this really difficult time, that you have your questions answered and that you feel comfortable.
And some questions were about, should I submit my appeal now and then have a meeting? I think that's a great idea. You don't need to wait until your meeting to submit your appeal. That way you might be able to have a conversation about what else we might need. So submit them now. And then a couple of questions, they were already looking for this recorded session. So it will be emailed out later after and then put online. So after we're done, give us a couple.
So I'm on the part of the site where you can see up here, it's FinAid/apply/special circumstances, where you can actually see if I need more financial aid, can I request it? And then it gives you that information, and the form is right here. So you can just quickly scroll through the form. We just have a few more minutes left, but I figured we might as well show this to you while we have that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So you can see that we have, I know it's a little small, but you can see that we provide some help so that you know what things we might be considering. And we just added COVID-19. We're not exactly sure yet what families might be providing. I know there's a lot of question marks. Some people may have lost their job, but they may become re-employed fairly quickly. We hope. We're not really sure. We know that families are anxious about what's happening with the stock market. By September, your investments may all be higher. We just don't know yet. So our commitment to you is to continue to look at that with you, and once things stabilize, to be able to offer you opportunities where we continue to reevaluate your situation if that makes sense.
I want to end with one more. I love this question because I love the answer. So how will, if a student chooses to go on a study abroad program, how will their financially be impacted?
Yeah, so I think what's another unique thing about BU is we have a lot of BU study abroad programs. So a lot of institutions sort of borrow other schools' programs because they don't have their own. because that's important, because there are programs, we allow our financial aid to travel with you to that program. So as long as it's a BU program, your BU financial aid and your federal and state financial aid can be applied to that cost. And the costs are very similar to on campus. So we want to make sure that all students that want to can study abroad, and that it's an affordable option for you.
Great. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for joining us. We encourage you to attend the future webinars, as well as all the great school information, and to make appointments with us if you want to. That would be great. I wish that we could have seen you in person. We miss that very much, but we're very glad to be able to offer this to you. And with that, we wish you well and the best as you make this really important college decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie. Good night.
All right. So now.
Being recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I end meeting.